Yes, I think we are live right now.
Okay.
Hello everyone, how are you all?
I can see.
There's Ronak joining us. Folks who have joined in, feel free to introduce yourself in the comment section, in the chat section on your right. Your name, your stream.
Okay.
We will start in another 2 minutes. Let's wait for a few more folks to join in. Let's wait for another 1 or 2 minutes and then we'll start off.
Yeah, then start. Right. Sure. I'm receiving questions from WhatsApp also. So I will take the questions at the last of the session.
Yes, we can take questions towards the end if we have liberty of time, or we can address them. Probably you can put together a talk and I can address them later on.
Right.
So we can do it either ways. If we have time, we can address it towards the end.
If we have.
Hello everyone. I think we can start it now. Fine. We have 15 folks who are watching us right now. We can start off.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a very good afternoon because of having Mr. Siddhant Agarwal. He's a program coordinator for Google in Developer Relations and international speaker for artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, and cloud computing. He holds a BTech Computer Science Engineering degree with specialization in oil and gas informatics. towards insight via Optimum Infosystem. He also leads the Google Developer Expert Program, and he's a broader developer community program as part of a Google Developer Relations team in India. He has received many accolades, and one of them is that he's a Top Innovator 2017 award for contribution to Intel's software innovation program and the field of AI, ML, DL, and IoT. He has also received Google India Challenge Scholarship 2018 for the front-end web developer. And not only this, he has also received the Oil and Gas Informatics badge from IBM. So this is it's great to have you, sir, here for the webinar. And I will also like the people to welcome the sir for the same. Thank you for being here. They're the students who will be getting you'll be getting today as the student from PGDM and MBA program, and they all are looking forward for a wonderful session, and I hope this is going to be the life-changing session for them. So over to you, Siddhanji. Thank you so very much. Please.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Surendra. Thank you so much for a warm welcome. And welcome, everyone. I hope you're all excited today. Let me start by presenting my screen. And before I begin, I would request all of you, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat section. If you have any questions, we can address it towards the end. Or if we don't have time after the session, we can address it later on. Dr. Surendra can help put together a doc, and we can address those questions towards the end after the session.
End of the session.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right, let's begin. Quick introduction about myself. My name is Siddhant. I work as program coordinator with developer relations team at Google in India. What we really do, we enable and empower a vibrant Indian developer ecosystem to build impactful solutions using Google technologies that can change the lives of the next billion users. Building for the next billion users is what the topic that I'm going to talk today. What are next billion users? How do we cater to them? And why do we really cater to them is what I'm going to talk. But before that, let me talk about what are the programs that we engage with. We have GDG program called Google Developer Groups. These are community-led groups of developers who are interested in Google's developer technology. These groups conduct in-person meetups. They do demos, talks. They both small and large. They sometimes include activities like code sprints and hackathons. We also have a program called Developer Student Clubs. These are university-based community groups for students interested in Google's developer technology. Students from all undergrad or graduate programs with an interest in growing as a developer are welcome. Might not be too much related for you if you're from a non-tech background, but feel free to connect with Developer Student Clubs across India. You can connect with those DSC leads and show your interest if you're in tech. And by joining a DSC, student grows their knowledge in the peer-to-peer learning environment and build solutions for local businesses and their community. In India, I take care of Google Developer Experts program, which is basically a global network of highly experienced technology influencers who actively support developers, companies, and communities globally. These are independent volunteers not working at Google, nor for Google in any capacity, but still have a passion to give back to the community, share their learning, share their expertise. This might be a bit related to you. We have a program called GFS Accelerator. It's a global acceleration program where we help startups build and scale great products and companies by connecting them with the best of Google. It's people, network, thought leadership, and technology. We also have a program called Women Tech Makers program that engages over 100,000 plus women in tech areas across 190 countries each year. WTM program provides visibility, community, and resources for women in technology across all career levels to drive innovation and participation in the industry. Before I begin, allow me to take a moment to talk about the current COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused extreme amount of pain and suffering to the entire world. And to say that to you, we are all in this together. This too shall pass. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay indoors. With this, let's begin on our talk today about building for next billion users. If I were to ask you to develop an internet-based solution that helps this old man, he could be a farmer, a grocery store owner, or a shepherd. How will you do that? What are the things that you will keep in mind when building for him? But before that, doesn't a fundamental question struck your mind? Why do we care? Why we should even think of building something for a villager? Maybe even for our grandparents, for an instance. Let me tell you why they matter. Because these are the next billion users, or users belonging to the NBA market, as we say in short. By Jan 2020, more than 5 billion users started using mobile phones for the first time across the globe, adding to a global internet base of more than 5 billion users. These are stats for across the globe, very recent stats by Hootsuite in Jan 2020. If I talk about India alone, with more than half a billion internet subscribers, India is one of the largest and fastest growing markets for digital consumers. But adoption is uneven among businesses. As digital capabilities improve and connectivity becomes omnipresent, technology is poised to quickly and radically change nearly every sector of India's economy. India is currently number one globally in terms of number of people enrolled in UIDAI. I hope you know all about the Aadhaar card initiative. And it's number two in terms of digital adoption. But how does this digital transformation translates into the growth of India's economy? Why we think even about it? Because it can create in India alone over a $1 trillion of economic value from digital economy. These are projected growth for 2025, and with half the opportunity originating in new digital ecosystems that can spring up in diverse sectors. This is from a report by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology in partnership with McKinsey. If you look at the new potential digitizing sectors like financial services, jobs and skills, agriculture, education, logistics, and retail, they all add up to a potential value of more than $400 billion by 2025. In addition, there are core digital sectors which are digitized and getting digitized, which are bound to be doubled, like the potential is bound to become double by 2025, making India a $1 trillion economy. We know the market potential of going digital and its projected growth. We have all seen how much it holds a value. But let's meet the next billion users now. Who are these people? I believe by now you would have guessed somewhat who are these next billion users, but to make things simpler for all of you, next billion users is basically a classification given to the segment of users getting online for the first time across the world. And that's why it matters. Those who are getting online, those are the mobile subscribers, unique mobile subscribers that are getting online. 65% of world's population lives in NBU countries, but NBU is more than just a matter of geography. A large proportion of this NBU segment will be in India, which brings in fresh opportunities for startups working for the Indian market. But a critical question still remains: how do we really reach these next billion users, or next billion internet users, NIUs or NBIUs, as we say? Let me take a crack at it. Let me talk about how we can cater to this segment. In order to understand what is required to reach these next billion internet users, we need to understand the foundations of internet access. How new internet users access internet for the first time. What kind of devices they use. How do they even connect to the internet? And how do they identify themselves on internet once they are on internet? Let's start with devices. NB users are not your average Pixel users. Think of it. These are not the people who have seen the way our journey has been from a dial-up connection to internet on our feature phones, then to smartphones or to laptops, iPads. We have seen the journey of internet transformation, but these are not your Pixel users. And for them, the form factor is not on laptop or desktop or smartphone or laptop or iPads, for instance. They typically come with a mobile-only mindset. They think that mobile is the internet for them. These users have older or entry-level devices, which means They have limited storage and memory. They might be having older operating systems. They would have smaller screens, and for smart feature phones, digipads. So how to optimize your product for entry-level devices? I will talk about them via some use cases, some references. Think of it. You can optimize your product for entry-level devices. Let's consider a problem statement. Due to data storage, memory pressure, and connectivity requirements, core Google products often poorly performed on entry-level devices, prevalent in few countries. That's when Google thought of how can we target these in-view users and come up with a variant of Android OS that could be optimized to work on low memory and budget-friendly smartphones, cheaper smartphones. They came up with Android Go, which is basically a modified version of Android OS that supports the ecosystem of Google apps as well. So they have a customized version of Google Play Store apps that you see, like YouTube Go. They will have Gmail Go. They will have Maps Go, things like that. This helps them to helps us to provide better improved user experience for end users. When we talk about data, how the end users connect to the internet. For us, it could be a wireless connection, but for them, it's primarily cellular data connection. They face challenges that include the data is costly. Barring India, where the data rates have gone low, there are a lot of NU countries, NU regions, where the data is still very pricey. It's very expensive. Slower connections. There are areas where you will find the connections to be much slower. While you are even in on 4G, you will actually get a 2G speed. Patchy connections. Similarly, you will get intermittent connections. You will have dead zones. You have patchy connections. This prevents users from completing their critical user journey. So, to build a data-conscious product, the features that minimize data usage is what is essential. You can provide transparency and control over data consumption, proactively plan for latency, provide a seamless experience between online and offline states, and foremost, when we are thinking of designing anything for these data conscious user, we do not think of offline as an edge case, as a last resort. It should be the prime resort that we should think of. Let me tell you how. So when we thought about this situation, like due to high cellular data costs in some countries, how can we manage the data content and save it for later? It also gives them an option to set a data cap. Like you can select basic quality, a standard quality, or a high quality data. I believe you would have also seen this in your usual YouTube app on your smartphones. You can now download and keep the videos for offline viewing. Twitter also released Twitter Lite in April, a progressive web app that comes with data-friendly features such as offline access and data saver mode. Hike came up with Hike to SMS and H2H offline feature, which is basically designed for users to earn and send free SMS and exchange messages even when receiving parties that have turned off their data. This is all about data, but there's more. Recently, Google announced in Google for India a Vodafone Idea phone line with Google Assistant, which basically uses no data or internet connection. You connect with Google Assistant the similar way that you do it on an online world. You ask questions and get information. All you have to do is just dial this toll-free number. In addition to the falling costs of devices and data, the shift from smartphone feature phones will drive consumption of messaging social media services. I hope there are currently 1.3 billion feature phones user globally, mostly in the emerging markets in Asia and Africa. And there are around 500 and more than 500 million feature phone users who are expected to migrate to smartphones in the next few years. But still, there's a long way to go, and we can still design something and develop something for these next billion users. When it comes to identifying themselves on internet, how they connect on internet, the fundamental question comes back. Do they really know what is Gmail? Do they know what are emails? They are not familiar with emails. They already have phone numbers. They may or may not have emails, but they're very familiar with phone numbers, which is very easier to use. And if you recall and go back, the NVIDIA users are mobile first. They are not desktop first internet users. They do not think of internet on a desktop. They instead think of it on a mobile. And for them to access it seamlessly on a mobile phone, they need to connect it on via a phone number. They often do not see value in creating an email account even. So to build a product that meets NB users, where they allow users to use the product without sign up or sign in, protect their user identity and privacy. I believe almost every one of you uses WhatsApp. So WhatsApp came up with this feature where you are using only mobile number as part of its sign-in process. You do not require any email ID to sign in. You do not need anything else to authenticate yourself, just a phone number to identify yourself. And we need to be mindful that requiring email-based sign-up may gate NB users from using your product. So we have learned all about how these internet users or new internet users or NBU users access the internet. But now comes a part where we're going to know how they interact with the internet, what influences their interaction. Voice is often preferred as it is easier than typing. Vernacular or local languages makes user interfaces and content more useful and relevant to NBU users. Why voice? So voice empowers the next billion users by enabling low literate users. They simplify inputs. Users can bypass the keyboard. They offer understandable output. And you should also note that voice may not be the right solution for every product, but it is to some extent a solution for most of the end users. You can think of consider integrating different voice modularities to make your product more accessible through maybe speech to text, like commands, recording, conversational, or even text to audio playback. You write a text and it plays back to you in form of an audio. Let me talk about some examples how various companies or enterprises are using this voice to WhatsApp introduced its voice messaging service where it allows users to send audio messages in addition to text messages. Google's voice recognition algorithms are getting better and smarter. One of the areas that you can yourself notice, and you can try this out, test it yourself out, is its improvement in YouTube and other applications, where it is making it more appealing that as soon as you search anything on YouTube via your voice, it immediately starts playing a video with that search. Not only that, Google recently talked about this in Google for India last year on how Google Assistant is making it more helpful for the end user. Now, they collaborated with Kotak Mahindra Bank to check your bank balance just with the power of voice. Now, with the voice, you can book a ride with Ola. You can real-time translate between two people speaking in Hindi and English. This is still in development stage, interpreter mode, but it's still coming up. You can also now soon come. This is coming up soon. You can soon order food hands-free from partners like Domino's. If I have to talk about something which you can relate into the current world, like current situation, the COVID-19 impact. If you haven't checked this portal, this dashboard, do check it out, covid19india.org. It's developed by an army of volunteers of more than 60K. They are on Telegram. You can join them as well. They are keeping a track of it, making sure the information is updated as soon as possible from various reliable resources. But the caveat over here is this dashboard is in English. Most of our Indian NBU users might not be too familiar with English. They don't know how to access it. Or if you have to take the learnings from the previous slides, how we can make it more accessible to the users in India, maybe via voice. So what this team at Slang Labs did they came up with this voice-enabled tracker, where if you look at the slides down on the bottom right, you can see a search with a voice option. Now you can search with various in English or in Hindi. They came up with two voices as of now, where you can search how many cases are there by just saying the name of the city, name of the state, and you'll get to know how many uh, cases are confirmed in the current city or current state. So that's one of the examples where companies or enterprises or startups are taking a leap forward and coming up with solutions that targets the next billion users. What else impacts the interaction of next billion users on internet? It's a very fundamental interaction of getting a vernacular content, vernacular languages, language localization, content relevancy. So language localization can make products more relatable. It can make it more accessible. Local languages can make our products even more relevant. Many NBU users are multilingual and they move between languages. Device language settings often do not reflect the true language preferences or comfort. They will have a default language of, say, English, but they are not too well versed with English. Um, but the default setting was in a view that English is the language of the internet. However, they are not. So maybe you can design and offer a local language support. You can come up with local language UIs, content, and language choice. Ensure that language selection is discoverable. Instead of making it as a default setting of English as a choice, you can make it more discoverable. At the start of the user interface, as soon as it starts, you can have a language selection, and then the entire journey of the user translates into that particular language. Or maybe you can enable it mid-journey, making it like easy to switch between languages. You can intelligently serve relevant languages. Let me talk about some of the use cases that happened, some companies that thought about this vernacular as an area to target next billion users. So Hike, which has a user base of 100 million plus users, came up with the unique features of library of nearly 15,000 plus stickers in over 40 local languages. These are exchanged over 300 million times a day. Stickers that reflect both national and regional festivals like Holi, Diwali, Onam, and Gudi Padwa. That's one of the features that makes it very unique from what WhatsApp offers, and that's why it has a very cutting base as in comparison to WhatsApp. If I have to talk more, the flexibility and discoverability of language switching. Many users set their device language to English, even though they can't read, write, or type that language. So Assistant enabled millions of users to interact in their native languages, like 9 Indic languages are available without changing their device settings. So your device settings can remain in English. However, Assistant allows you to interact with your device, use your device in the native languages as well. Again, recently in Google for India, Google Lens, I hope you would have tried this out. If not, do try this software out. Google Lens can now understand 3 new Indian languages. What basically Google Lens does, it allows users to translate text by pointing their phone's camera at banners, documents, and more. Think of it, you are in a totally new land where you don't know that language, where you don't understand. How would you survive that area for travelers out there? So they came up with this interesting solution. They came up with this Google Lens. You just have to point your phone's camera onto those banners and it translates. They recently added 3 new Indian languages, Tamil, Telugu, and Marathi, making it more accessible for the users who are in South India or those who are traveling to South India. Another example is Google Bolo. Bolo is a speech-based app to help children learn how to read. They have been adding support for more Indian languages like Bangla, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu. It also announced its partnership with publishers like Chota Bheem and Katha Kids as part of its content expansion plans. So now kids can learn the content in their native languages as well. If I have to move beyond consumers, this is what I've been talking about, how a consumer interacts on internet, how they use, how they access internet. If I have to move beyond this segment and move to SMB side, move beyond this, talk about small and medium businesses in this NBO market. Is it the same? Is it in any way resembling? Yes. In many ways, SMBs in NBO segment resembles consumers in NBO. They exhibit similar characteristics at what the NBO users exhibit. SMB users also exhibit the similar characteristics in these countries. They have a mobile first approach. They often are just mobile only. They don't have these local retailers or small medium enterprises. They don't have the luxury of desktops or smartphones to that extent, or iPads or Macs. They lack traditional digital experience like websites, app. They are still working in the traditional format. Or even if they want to, they prefer very simple tech tools and platforms. They face structural challenges that are not present in mature countries. They might face challenges in terms of accessing the internet as consumers face. Like entry-level devices is also a challenge for them. Data affordability. They also need to be present on internet. If the consumers are on internet, they also need to be available on internet, which again goes back to the question of data affordability, entry-level devices, patchy or low-speed connections, as well as persistent structural issues like power outages, unreliable postal services, or constrained access to capital. There are challenges that even not just the consumers, but also the small and medium businesses are facing rather. But how to empower these 60 million India's local retailers? If I have to just talk about from an Indian context, how to enable that? So for that, to solve for SMBs in InView, there's a company called LoveLocal, which is formerly known as m.Paani, that thought about like how they can enable local retailers to deliver like e-tailers, basically e-commerce giants, and compete and succeed in this rapidly changing retail environment, still giving a neighborhood shopping experience that is there when you browse or shop online. So what they're doing is they're digitizing and organizing these local retailers to deliver a similar experience. If you were to solve for these SMBs in InView, build products that are mobile first, have an intuitive design that enhance and simplify offline interactions with customers, maybe like direct messaging. You should take into account structural challenges like power outages. So to sum it up, whenever we are designing or building a solution for next billion users and why this is essential, focus in mind what challenges or what kind of roadblocks these next billion users face in these countries. We should not think from a tier 1 city perspective. Always think from how this will impact, like how the solution will be good for even our grandparents or those who are living in a village in a rural India. So that sums up everything that I want to talk about. And feel free to connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. My username is @SaidAgarwal04. Find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. And with this, I'm Dr. Surender, if you can help me, if there are any questions, I can take up the questions.
What in order to fully tap that the potential and prosperous NBO market and the barriers companies need to overcome and make sustained commitments, how to build the positive image in NBO's mind? So that is what the first question.
Sorry, I lost you in between. I think you were not part of the stream. If you can repeat it for me.
The question, first question being asked from Shashank Srivastava. In the current era, where hacking and cyber frauds are at high, how can this be beneficial to the rural users where they don't even know how to operate mobile?
Yes, exactly. So Sishank, one thing that I perfectly didn't talk about this in this topic, basically on the privacy part. You need to ensure privacy as well, and probably that's something that I can talk about it later on. But yes, privacy is something that you should keep it in mind when you are interacting with these next billion users. How you are ensuring the data is safe. That's why I think of what information you really need and how you can like just use that limited information to come up with a solution for them. For example, as I said, like maybe mobile phone number is the only information you need from them. Maybe you don't need their other details. So think of a solution which requires as less information. And this the same principle applies if you're talking about building a solution using machine learning or AI. When we talk about the best practices of building a machine learning solution, gather in the minimal information without compromising on the accuracy or whatever work you want to do. But also at the same time, you should not ask for redundant information, something which you do not require, which might not be too useful. You're just asking the user just for the sake of keeping a data stored with you. So yes, that's something it's essential to keep in mind: privacy of the user.
One more question from Amir Meti. He wanted to ask, what is the scope for the startup as far as end user concerned?
So as I mentioned, we are looking at a $1 trillion economy, and if I just break, and that is the projection by 2025, like just 5-6 years down the lane. And if I have to break it down into the new digital sectors that are being boomed up, and that's where the startup segment lies: your financial services, your education, your retail, your entertainment. That closely amounts to like $400+ billion of industry by 2025. That's in next 5-6 years. So there's a huge potential when it comes to startups. The startups are now moving toward targeting next billion users in comparison to their tier one users.
Sure.
So they keep in mind being
Yeah.
first for use, and which automatically translates to building for the entire bunch of people, like in comprises of the tier ones also, those who are living in tier one cities and states.
One of the questions which I have combined for and been asked for many is like, what in order to fully tap that potential and prosperous in NBU market, the barrier the companies need to overcome and make sustained commitments.
Can you repeat the question for me?
The question is like, what in order to fully tap the potential and to become prosperous in NBU market, and what are the various barriers that a company need to overcome to become sustained, to have the sustained commitments for a longer period of time.
So as I said, like first and foremost is think from the NBU user perspective. Like it should be the first approach, a mobile first approach, instead of building a web that can be only accessed on a browser, on a desktop, on iPad. Think of building something, a solution which can work on these entry-level devices, on feature phones. There's a huge potential out there where the startups can tap in. A lot of the companies are moving into that direction of making things accessible. And again, reiterating, making things accessible via voice. A lot of these users are not too tech savvy. They don't know, and they don't know even the QWERTY keypad or the type pad that we use. They are much more familiar with that digipad or the T9 keypads. So if we can think of a solution that can still work. So for example, Geo came up with their Geo OS, Geo mobile phones. They were in turn targeting those next billion users, those users who can't afford a smartphone, even an entry-level smartphone. They were still targeting those, and they tied up with Google Assistant, making Google Assistant available on those feature phones. So you need to have a mobile first approach, one, and think of how they interact, how our next billion user will interact with on the internet. Again, these are not our average iPads or Mac users. These are our mobile first users. They have not seen anything about internet, what we have seen in that world of dial-ups, modems, and Ethernets, Wi-Fi's. For them, cellular connectivity is the only thing. Think of the patchy areas where the cellular connectivity can go down. Come up with the edge cases for that situation, like maybe catching things online, caching things online. Have a mechanism where you can just keep few things downloaded onto the mobile phone itself, and as soon as it connects to the internet, you just transmit to the server later on.
Great. I hope you got the answer. There's one more question, Siddharth, that was like, how important is for the organization to go for local insight? I mean, the pain points to crystallize the problem.
So if I'm correct, by local insights, you mean to have a research in terms of like what, if whoever asked this question can elaborate on what is the local insights like.
I've received it on WhatsApp, so let me ask him to do it.
Okay.
In between, we can go with the another question, like how to build a positive image in NBUs. What are the various characteristics which an NBU should possess to have, positive image of the organization?
That's a tough one to say, honestly, because NBU segment is something that might not give you too much of a mileage in terms of PR in short run, but in a long run, if you are able to reach out to various geographies, come up with a solution that works in seamless in not just in one geography but in multiple geographies, that could be a positive point.
Right. So he has given me some inputs. The localization means if I wanted to target the local, either, I mean, though I'm targeting to a lot of NBUs, but do I need to be localized as far as my strategies are concerned, or should I go with the global strategies?
So if you really want to target the next billion users, those who are living in the rural India, just for an instance, if we talk about them, the global strategy will still talk about delivering solutions that are in English, but for them, English is not a language. They don't know English. Even for Hindi, they don't understand Hindi. Maybe in terms of writing, but or reading, but they know how to speak in Hindi. Or if you go down south in India, the various native languages, they might not be too comfortable in reading or writing in those languages, but they are very comfortable in a voice-based approach. So if you look from a global strategy, then of course you might not be able to target this segment, but you have to come up with a regional geographical based approach and design something which can allow localization yet not impacting the other users that are into your global markets. So something that can work both in parallel, and that's what companies like Google have been doing it. They come up with solutions that work in seamless in various geographies. If we talk about Google Maps, they might have an optimized version of Google Maps in geographies where the internet connectivity is very low. They can come up with Maps Go, as I said. They came up with a new variant, maybe. So you might have to think in those directions whenever you are dealing with users in this segment.
So as far as this NBUs is concerned, big organization do also require to partner with the local organization to build better mobile applications?
Not essentially. It completely depends. A lot of the smaller startups itself do great wonders. Like Slang Labs has been doing it for a long time. I have seen the various products that they have built. They usually, and they're one of the products. Little Eye Labs was acquired by Facebook as well. And at the same time, the big corporates, they execute a lot of these things on their own. Typically, what they do to get more insights is they conduct these user research interviews. They go into those regions, and that's where they understand. They talk to these people, how they how they will interact. Maybe they will just take in 1 or 2 feature phones, some demos and stuff, and they just hand over those demos and those feature phones to those end user, see how they interact, understand what is it that they are doing, instead of prompting them and asking them, hey, do this or do that. They instead just observe, get more insights, understand their pain points, and that's how they gather in the research. They build a team of UX researchers, basically user experience researchers, and then based on those pain points, they go back to the drawing board and then design something which can cater to these challenges, these roadblocks that they are facing.
Okay. So what I can sense out of this whole conversation is that for starters, the companies need to observe NBU's need and behavior through the lens of next billion users, and understand what unique challenges they are struggling and uncover the business opportunities which are buried in them. So this is my takeaway from this session. One more question from Ronak. He said, if everything is going to be digitized, what is the future of local brick and mortar system?
That's a wonderful question. And if I have to just talk about the same example of LoveLocal or m.Paani, as they were usually called, the local retail business are going to exist. The brick and mortar will not go away. That I can strongly say from my personal experience, that the brick and mortar business cannot go away. At the same time, digitizing them can boost their economy as well as boost India's economy. It's a win-win situation for everyone. So let's say for m.Paani, who is working towards digitizing these local retailers, it's a win for them. They are helping these local retailers go online. They don't have any presence, digital presence. They don't have any websites or apps. Or if you have to talk about a basic thing that local retailers do, they transact. They have a transaction of money. They don't have the technical expertise to build an e-commerce website, just like Amazon or Flipkart. They don't have surplus amount of money to invest into technology, where they are just putting their entire inventory online. So how can they still cater to and increase their economy, increase their livelihood? So that goes back that the brick and mortar business will still remain. However, if we add a digitization element to it, it will definitely help them achieve more goals, maybe increase in their revenues, improvement in their livelihoods of whoever is that particular business. So yeah, it ultimately transforms the lives of individuals and individuals who are associated with that business or businesses.
Great. So I hope we have taken almost all the important questions. And if there are other more questions, you can send, I mean, they can email to me and I can send you the details so that you can answer them through the mail. At the best with the session, what we can get as like at the very product development level, the companies needs to create the product and services that engage with NBUs and fulfill their unmet demands and needs. And this is oftenly based on local research and observation, partnering with the local resources and product insight and validation. Siddhant, anything else you wanted to, say to, as you are also a motivational speaker, I just came to know about it. Do you wanted to suggest anything for our students?
So one thing that I always talk about is to keep sustainability in the back of your mind whenever you are designing anything for anyone, even if you're not thinking about end users, but think of sustainability as a core principle. It could be sustainability of the solution. It could be sustainability in terms of the environment. It could be anything. Think of sustainability as a core principle. I will go back and talk about sustainable development goals that UN has laid out. Think from that perspective how you can achieve those goals, help UN achieve those goals, and at the same time develop a solution that targets these next billion users. So SDG sustainability is something that I will leave this leave the floor for more thoughts by everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I think now we are coming to the end of the session. Thank you on the behalf of the entire ITS family. I would like to thank you for this wonderful seminar, and it was great discussion. Everybody must have one or the other takeaways from this. So thank you for being here, and we'll definitely like to see you someday in our campus for the same. But thank you so very much, Dant. I would also like to thank you from the side of our director management, as well as Dr. I will also like to thank Dr. Johri for inviting you for such a wonderful webinar. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Surinder, and thanks, Dr. Rajiv, for inviting me to this platform. It was a wonderful session for me as well, sharing my insights and learnings from the NBU segment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Same to you, sir.
Thank you.